Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness. I plan on just going into a little flow with the guides here about the upcoming energies of the eclipse, the moon energies, the sun energies, all of that. I want to talk briefly about some of the things that maybe we've been experiencing from my own personal story and perspective. I want to just share that there's a lot going on, in case you haven't noticed, in the world. There are a lot of energies that we might be feeling whenever these eclipses come in, whenever there's a major astrological event lineup. Some of us are more sensitive to that than others. That's not a judgment or a hierarchy thing, although many people are quick these days to be in judgment. I would venture to share that some of us are going to feel it more than others, and it can cause us to feel out of sorts. In addition to all of the earth changes that are happening, in addition to us feeling collectively for our brothers and sisters who are going through difficulties right now, we're all experiencing reality in our own way. And right now, it's very important for us, from my perspective and from the perspective of the guides, to continuously pray. And when I say pray, I don't say it in a religious way. I say it in a way of communing with source frequency, with self, with our higher self, with the spirit that moves through all things. And coming into a place of gratitude when we do that for our own breath that we are taking in and expelling as we say this prayer, as we walk through this life, as we commune, if you will, and come into community and oneness with ourselves, with one another. Because it looks as if, and what do they say, the dawn is, it's always darkest before the dawn. It looks as if we are more separated than ever. But I would venture to say, from my perspective, that's not true. There are going to be those who wish to project that truth because that's the reality they see. Therefore, it's true for them. And they tend to be louder. They tend to be more in our face. And my guides have basically been showing me that the more light, the more trolls, the more people are coming up to voice their beliefs or to pass their judgments. But in actuality, because of some of the things that are happening, it's giving us the ability to see more clearly. That's not what we want, right? That's not what most of us want. Some of us obviously want that because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it, right? But part of these events that are happening that are so difficult to watch, the earth changes and the people that are being affected, it's bringing us together. And so we're really being called to come together in this, to recognize that some of the things that we've been focusing on that we think are really important, that we're cutting each other down over, when it really comes down to it, and there's a storm that's going to wipe out your house and your neighbor's house, ultimately, you just have the two of you in that situation that are going to rely on each other for survival. So are the things that we're arguing about, are the things that we're passing judgment on, are the mean words that we're using to one another really helpful? And I'm hearing for some people they feel good to get those out. But if it feels good to put somebody else down, well, that's the reality that I don't necessarily want to be a part of. I mean, I'll be a part of all reality, but I'm not going to participate in that way. if that makes sense. I don't choose to enable people who are going to cut other people down. It isn't right in the sense of it's not the right angle. And I say play with that angle, angel, energy, angle, how we fit into the equation of reality, the platonic solids and how they nest within each other. If it's not the right angle, we're not creating. We're breaking things down. But in actuality, from another perspective, the guides are saying we are breaking things down. The way in which we used to operate is being broken down. So we're going through a growing struggle in some regards, a struggle with the growing pains. And until we can come to a place of coherence, it's always going to feel like a struggle. And there will always be those who wish to help us with that struggle by making it more challenging. So we're really being called, from my perspective, to go into our hearts, to find forgiveness, to find a place of equanimity, a place of coherence, a place of respect and regard for other humans, and do what we can to support humanity. And once we all start doing that, or the majority of us begin doing that, the other things that we've been focusing our attention and time on start to become less, just less. We start to create more of the good. We start to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, that video that I did the other day. But we move away from those types of conversations, videos, so on and so forth, that don't encourage the true spirit of humanity. So I just wanted to kind of give that little rant. My guides have just been like, get into coherence. Let's stop this unnecessary name calling, judgment, all that stuff. Now, that's not to say we're not going to have emotions come over us at times, and we're not going to react strongly to those emotions. We're not going to have fears come up. All of that. Okay. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of flow about the eclipse energies from here. And also I'll share some links below this, just for those who are interested in helping some of the people who are still recovering from the storms. All I did was go online and look up places to help, and am going to send my donations there. And then my husband and I are going to check in when we're able to in the next week or so to see if anybody that we have the ability to connect with in Florida that might need supplies. We might bring out water and canned food and some clothing to certain areas. I mean, we all do what we can do. That was the other message that was coming through, not beating ourselves up because we can't do more. And that's a topic that I think is valuable to kind of just bring up. We may not be able to do more about the people that are suffering in the wars that are going on, or out of this country, or some of the suffering that's happening in this country. But what we do have control to do is to donate, to volunteer at a homeless shelter, to maybe assist a loved one who's going through grief, so on and so forth. So we do what we can. And if each and every one of us does a little bit of something, it's going to essentially assist all of mankind in this unification and working together that many of us are looking for, hoping for, waiting for. It's here now. We are the ones to bring it forward, to bring it up, to be that, be the change. Okay, enough about that. And so these energies come into a space that is challenging for some right now. This eclipse is coming at a time when we are ending one time and beginning a new time, and yet that time has come. It is already here, therefore it has already come to pass. We're playing with words here because the words in which we use are tied into multiple stream sets of energy and frequency. And therefore, we can use the words in a myriad of ways to express in a myriad of ways that would be less linear to convey, or multidimensional, one might say. And we play with this in a poetic way because it gives us an ability to latch into, if you will, more frequencies, more energies. And this is a science behind language. It is a science behind geometry. And so not all those who listen will see the patterns. Not all will recognize the patterns that are held within these patterns, that are held within more patterns, that are layers upon layers of energy that is shared through this collaboration, if you will, of the we, that is the collective of energies that makes up community, that makes up frequency and comes together in community to express multidimensionality. It is very simple, and yet there are those who are afraid of it. There are those who fear what they do not know or cannot comprehend, and it is our choice in that moment to call them friend, or to move away from their field, which is still connected to the field, yet move into our own sense of sovereignty in this field and allow them to be. Let them be, is what I'm hearing. And the light language is a perfect example of an energy or frequency or a language long gone by that many have forgotten about. And so to hear it can cause certain feelings of insecurity or fear to come up for some who are insecure in knowing more than what they have been told, what they have been taught by the mainstream, if you will, the stream of religions and televisions and media personalities and books that have been accepted by those particular divisions of reality. And so we move into this space of acceptance, if you will, for this equinox. Boy, that's a play on words. I have a feeling they're tying together, by the way, different, because I'm hearing eclipse, equinox, like it's tying this together. It's a holding pattern. And this has to do with the autumnal equinox and the upcoming triads, if you will, of energy that are lining up in a triunification. And so this bridges together different time zones, we might say. It brings us into more awareness of time zones, and it brings us into a heightened sense of awareness of places and spaces on the earth that we would usually not tune into if we were not in those places and spaces on earth. And so as we start to send our energy and direction into another place or space that we are not used to sending our energy and direction into, it sends, we should say, frequency that way. And it allows us to open to more, if you will. Us meaning we, all of us, for we are not separate. You guys, when I say we, it's just a collective of energy and frequency that is multidimensional that I am part of through my DNA. It's nothing, it's science. It is something that we all have access to in a different way. We're all different in how we express ourselves. So we is always used as a version of the many in one. We are a unified collaborative, if you will, of frequency and shapes and sounds and harmony. We are beyond the physicality from one perspective, although the other versions of we are in physical realities and so on and so forth, for we are multidimensionality, all of us, not just the us that speaks through the we, but the you and me. So we are all connected through this divine soup, these layers of bands, if you will, these bandwidths. And as we band with energy and frequency through a coherent state of energy, we begin to streamline our efficiency. And we have spoken on this many times. Yet at this time, the more streamlined we can become, the easier it is to rhyme, the easier it is to line up with a pattern, a frequency. And so what is the frequency that we wish to share more frequently? What is the speed in which we wish to share the vibrancy that each of us is expressing through our own light within? We invite you to come into your own state of union, if you will, your own inner state of knowingness that allows you to unify with that which is beyond what we might identify as reality, beyond the structures that we can see, beyond conformality, conforming to a reality that no longer conforms to the same set of rules that we have been informed about for eons, if you will, or for years, if you will, in a time frame structure. For reality itself has been restructured, for we are in the process of restructuring as a whole. And I'm hearing the word pie, and I'm seeing identify, and I'm seeing new angles. For new angles have been introduced, and as they are introduced, we become, I'm hearing a reduction phase, we become more aware of these precise variations that are giving us a variety of information about our reality that has been unread, play on words, before. So when I'm seeing unread, like scrolls that haven't been found, right? That gave us an idea or perspective on reality that we didn't have before we found those scrolls. I'm seeing the DNA. Like we weren't able to read it before, but now with technology, we can read it in a different way, so we get more out of it. I'm seeing a disc. I'm seeing a crystal. All of a sudden, we're having applications that are available to us that weren't available before. So we didn't know what we didn't know, but now we're starting to know more because, and what I'm being shown is it was always there, but the angles weren't lined up to match. So therefore it wasn't there. We couldn't see it. And I'm hearing just because you see it doesn't mean it's not there. And that's applicable now for everything, right? If Einstein was given the information that we have now back then, how would that have shaped his studies and his findings and how he shared his information and what he shared? Well, the world was different back then. So a lot of the information couldn't be shared because it wasn't accepted, wasn't understood. Same thing with Tesla, Nikola Tesla, or many other inventors and mathematicians that I don't know the names to, but I'm just sharing the basics, the basic ones. And so we play with this because the structure of reality is meant to be played with. It is pliable. It is fluid. It has a dynamic presentation that is interwoven through the structures of the non-solids, we will call it, for nothing is truly a solidified base. Everything is a dynamic, exchangeable, interchangeable interface. So the energies that we have processed and worked with are now different. The microscopic world is different. And so when we put things under a microscope, we begin to see differently. We begin to see the world differently. And I'm hearing, is it Pasteur? But just think about what we've learned from looking under a microscope about reality, or looking out through the Hubble telescope or beyond. It's like it's giving us the knowingness beyond just the regular eyesight. And so back to the energies of the eclipse and the lineup, if you will, the stellar lineup. You are sensing a shift, and reality is on the precipice of a massive undergoing of change. And with this change comes a feeling of upheaval. Many people are feeling this energy shift and interpreting it as a battle. We would venture to say that is not always the way to perceive things. For a battle is seen as an us versus them mentality or scope. And as we look at it from that particular angle, we can see a variety of ways in which we can move through and win, if you will, the us versus them scenario, and vice versa, and being shown also how we could not win. Like we're given both, and we're like, well, we could lose here, we could win here. So we invite you to see past that. We invite you to see that the battle, whatever battle or side you perceive you are on, in whatever battle or fight you perceive you are fighting, we would invite you to recognize that all strings are being pulled, if you will. That the string fold theory, plan words, is merging with the other theories that are all connected, and connecting the dots, if you will, on all of these theories will give us an adjustment. And this adjustment period where science comes together and merges with mathematics, and mathematics merges with some esoteric systems that have been put on a shelf, one might say, we begin to take and dust off those items that have been sitting collecting dust on a shelf somewhere in the back of a laboratory, in the back of a museum, in the back of an artifact. I'm hearing like dumpster, like where we thought it was trash or we thought it was unusable, and now we pull out the script and realize, oh, we missed this letter. We missed this number. We transposed this somehow and got it backwards. We are sharing this in a multidimensional way and in a linear way simultaneously, for that is the way of it. We would adventure it. Oh boy, I'm seeing, feeling, and hearing different words right now. It's all mished in together. We would invite you into this adventure a bit more fully, and we would invite you to feel more fully into what it is that you are venturing into and what you would like to create in this new venture together. Would you like to continue to create a battle? Would you like to continue to create a need to see someone else win? Would we need to follow greed in its footsteps? Or can we look back at where we might have been even now, and see where we would be if we were together, come together in unity, in humanity, human unity. And as we can do this, we begin to set aside our differences and step off the ride, if you will, that has been keeping us on one track for many, 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 many times, many rides, if you will. And we are suggesting that this new adventure may be best undertaken by all of us needing to let go of overtaking and coming into a space of no longer underestimating the power of compassion, consideration, coherence, admiration for one another, respect, and stepping away from the need to label how each individual needs that to look. For it is a matter of simplicity, if you will. It is a matter of the simplicity in the complexity. It is a matter of the basics and getting back to the basics of the heart, of the golden rule, which has been called thus or such for a reason. And it stands to reason that we have stepped away many times from reasoning, and we instead have stepped into a a reason. I'm hearing reasoning with stories, we'll say, reasoning with false pretenses, and we have built our reasoning around claims that we have staked or placed stake and value in. And now we are starting to realize the error of our ways, or the mistakes, if you will. Although, of course, from a higher perspective, this was all necessary in order to create this new directive and energy to be felt and utilized in a very different way than we have felt or utilized it in the past. And so we can learn from our past, and we can learn from our past mistakes, and we can also forgive and let go of those past mistakes, if you will, to break the cycle of us versus them, to break the cycle and patterns that have kept us on the outer rim, if you will, versus the inner depth and deeper version of the true core of it all. We are now entering a phase of heightened core sensitivity. And when we use the word sensitivity and sensibility, we do not mean to necessarily compare it to emotional being overly sensitive, or sensibility being overly sensible. We are applying this in a blanket term, so to speak, that we are, all of us, being invited into this heightened states of sensibility and sensitivity in a balanced and coherent way that takes us away from the false screen, from this overly sensitive and overly sensible left and right brain imbalance, we could say. It brings us back more into harmonizing with the energy that is allowing us this fluidity, that is taking us away from the rigidity that we have been, I keep hearing the word transposition and transposed into. So during this window, there is a time jump, if you will, and we will potentially do more videos around this. This allows us to jump base. It allows us to increase our base signatures, and it allows us to have a broader impact when we I'm just seeing come into a place of balance and stability amidst the imbalance and instability. For those of you who are able to stabilize your frequency in a more coherent and I'm just seeing on a more regular basis, that's the base, like base. Higher, baby. Higher, baby. That was a synchronicity I was having the other day with base numbers, which I should do that video next. So I'm going to end in this space. We are inviting everyone to get back into the basics and the heart space, to come from that space to create, especially in this now time frame, reaching out to our brothers and sisters who are in need of whatever that may be that we can see to provide for them, for humanity, and for ourselves. For in doing this, we help ourselves. In being that movement of compassion, we become the makers of the rules. We begin to make our own rules that are based on a harmonic humanity and move away from the disharmonious frequency that we have been trotting through for quite some time. So welcome to this new time, and so it is. Love and light, guys. Namaste.